When you're communicating change or using narrative and communication strategies in organizational change management, there are many tools that you can use. And a powerful one from behavioral science is called the MINDSPACE framework. This is a tool that has been developed by the behavioral insights team that works with governments around the world, and it was aimed to be used by policymakers to effectively communicate new policies and evoke behavioral change. So it's a powerful tool that was actually developed by behavioral scientists for non-academic or non-behavioral scientist practitioners. So it's easy to use and can be highly effective. We're going to cover it in the context of organizational change communication. So as I said, it's an evidence-based tool. It consists of multiple components. We're going to go through them one by one. And there is a very strong scientific substantiation for this tool. It is pretty much a lot of the most powerful techniques when it comes down to influence and persuasion, put into one easy-to-use framework to optimize communication and to become better at communicating changes. So it consists out of 9 dimensions. It's actually an acronym standing for messenger, incentives, norms, defaults, salience, priming, affect, commitment, and ego. You don't have to remember all that, but we're going to go through them one by one and see how you can use this as a checklist to optimize your communication, to make sure you're hitting all the right notes when it comes down to communicating a change as a change leader or a change manager. We start with messenger, and this is all straightforward, but often overlooked. The message is quite important, vital actually, but the messenger, the person that is communicating it, is equally important. So you can check this by seeing, do you have the right people in the organizations that are credible, that are maybe role models, that have informal or formal influence, and are you involving them in the communication process, which is just as key as communicating the right message. Then there is incentives. You're probably aware of incentives, a powerful driver of behavior. And when it comes down to this MINDSPACE framework, it's it's incredibly important to incorporate the what's in it for them of multiple audiences that are affected by a change. So make sure that you know this, that you talk to the people before, that you map this, and you have these attitudes and you have these worries and you have these opportunities, and that you communicate them. Communicate what the professional gains are, what the potential losses are, and make sure that incentives are aligned throughout communication. You can use this as a very powerful tool to motivate people. Norms, well, we're all aware of what norms are, social norms, organizational norms. And in communication, you can incorporate this to make sure that you shift the norms or create the norms that are desired for where you're moving in terms of organizational outcomes. So make sure that you communicate exactly what you want to see in terms of values, in terms of norms, and also role model that behavior. Make it easy for people to adopt. Defaults. You might have heard about default options in computer science and behavioral science. It's also an incredibly powerful incentive, incredibly powerful strategy that you can use to change behavior. So in the context of organizational change communication, you could use defaults by describing the new behaviors that you want to see, the behaviors that you want to see changed, so the future behaviors, the desired behaviors, and describe them as the new normal. Make sure that people are completely aware of what this future change should look like in terms of behavior, so that it becomes easy to adopt. The clearer you can outline these behaviors, the easier it will be for people to just see them as the defaults and pick them as the option, the go-to option, because it will be the new normal. Salience. Salience, it's a bit of a tough word sometimes, but it's highly relevant because it's all about what captures attention. So if you're a good storyteller or a good communicator, you're naturally good with creating salience, making sure that attention is captured. And you can do this by providing visual outcomes as well. You see a lot of change management programs where you have an artist that is drawing out what the post-change looks like. You don't need someone to draw stuff. You can also make sure that you are presenting novel information, that you clearly and concisely paint almost, picture the outcomes that are going to be seen. Make that picture very salient for people, because if they can create that mental image, it will become a lot easier for them to change their behavior accordingly as well. There's priming. You probably have heard about priming. It's a bit of a controversial subject in psychological research as well, but it can be a very interesting strategy to incorporate in your communication. And here it's about the type of language that you're using, for example. You can refer to our video and our webinars about growth mindset. If you use growth-oriented language in your communication, we might not be able to do this yet, but we will in the future. We're going to get there with efforts, and we're going to get there with bringing each other there with the right feedback, with the right persistence. And for example, this is an example how you can use priming, right? You use growth-oriented language to help people get into that mindset of, yeah, we can do this. It's going to take efforts. It's not going to be easy, but they shift to a more positive adoption of new behavior. So there are many ways in which you can incorporate priming, of course, but this is just one of them that you can think about. There's affect, which is about the emotional impact that a change might have. And oftentimes change management doesn't put enough attention into this, because change, it can mean a lot of opportunity. It will also mean loss. Not everyone will be better off because of a change. And it's incredibly important also in your communication to give those emotions a spot, to acknowledge that there might be negative emotions, to acknowledge that there might be pain, and of course to also acknowledge what there might be to gain, what the positive effects are, what the positive impact are. Bottom line, make sure you leave room for emotion in your communication. Don't leave it out and be purely logical. There is commitment, and this one is all about you as a communicator as well, and the leadership team that you work with, or the change leaders. What can you do to make sure that you are in this just as much as the rest of the organization, of all the stakeholder groups? And what can they expect from you? Can you commit to adopting new behaviors? Can you lead by example? And can you strongly communicate this as well? And lastly, there's ego, which is a controversial word in psychology. But here it really means we have an organizational change. We have a lot of stakeholders, a lot of systems dynamics, but in the end, we're all people. We're all people with individual goals, values, and also a reputation that we want to maintain. And as I said, not everyone is going to be better off. So make sure that whatever you communicate, that you do it in a respectful way and with a respectful frame towards all stakeholders. And this boils down to one-on-one communication as well. Make sure that there is room for emotion and that you give people and have people maintain the dignity that they deserve as well. Not everyone is going to be better off after a change. And everyone has a certain amount of ego and identity that's going to be linked to that. Make sure that you acknowledge that. Make sure that it's incorporated in the communication strategy and also in one-on-one communication. So that is the MINDSPACE framework in a nutshell. And of course, this is based on published research by the Behavioral Insights team. So I highly recommend you go into the research deeper, find more ways to apply this, and use this as a tool to enhance your communication strategy. It doesn't have to be a leading tool, but make sure that you use it at least as a checklist. Did we tick off all these boxes? Review your communication material and see, did we incorporate all these MINDSPACE domains? And of course, don't do it on your own. Involve your team, involve your change managers, involve the people on the front line as well. Make sure that they're all parts of this strategy. Make sure that they all have a say in what the narrative is going to be. Great. Well, that concludes the MINDSPACE intervention. A lot of dimensions, a lot of information, but I highly encourage you to try this one out in your change strategy. And as always, good luck and keep experimenting.